Okay, in this video what I wanted to cover was essentially the tidying up of the Ampla downtime grid view as well as the details data entry form layout and just essentially a tidy up there as well. So one of the things that you'll see when you first configure downtime, as we have here in these series of videos, is that there's quite a few columns of data in here that are displayed by default. Now a number of these columns are not overly applicable for the average user, so what we really need to do is think about whether we want to hide them all together or change the layout of them or format or whatnot. And an example here would be inside of the client. We have some columns of data here around, so this is masking if you were doing some of that sort of thing with Ampla. Even this last modified column of data is something that most users typically don't need to see. Again, this clipped column, not overly applicable, and if it is, we want to definitely reduce the size of that. You can then also see there's quite a few of these other fields like equipment type, derived fields, location, this effect and event which we're not using. These are the fields that just sort of flood the view here so that the really applicable information is harder to see. So you can see we can scroll down. These are obviously three critical fields we want to see, but they're sort of just amongst many. So what we're going to look at here firstly is turning some fields off altogether and then filtering some fields out, or essentially turning them off in the grid view. And then we'll also look at tidying up some of the display formats on, say, this effective percent column, which is making it look a little bit messy over here as well. So what we'll start with is turning off some of these fields altogether in Ampla. So if we're back in Studio, the downtime reporting point has like a master downtime configuration up in the system config, which will carry through to all instances of the downtime point that's used in the hierarchy. So what you can see here is that we've implemented a downtime reporting point. The fields that are visible down here, they have a lot of local configuration and a lot of local parameters that can be set regarding filterability or visibility or whatever, but we can also override some of that by setting it at a sort of like a class level or a parent level. So you can see here this downtime reporting point, the master config, we've got these standard fields, and as an example before, we were saying that we didn't want to see some of those columns of data. So what we can do here is we can actually disable or turn those off. So an example might be the effect and event. So at the moment it's saying that it's editable and it's visible. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we'll turn that off in the details, so it's not available in the delay entry form. And then we'll also make sure that it is not visible in the grid view. So you can see that's a couple of those properties there. So we'll do the same with the event. So showing grid is false. Where was the other one? So showing details is also false for that. So we'll save that. And then the other one that we can do while we're in here is the effective percent column. It wasn't showing a very nice format regarding the units that it was showing. It had too many decimal places. So what we can do is we'll say the percent downtime, which is that effective percent column, we're going to give it a display format up here that is much nicer to look at. So what we can do here is we can say we're going to have 2 decimal places for that. We'll save that config, and then what we'll do is we'll just start the tree here, close the client, and then we will reopen the Ampla client. And what we should see there is, because again they're like global downtime properties, we should see that the downtime reporting point now reflects those changes. So straight away the effective percent column, it's now showing 0.16% effective duration, effective impact of that slow running delay here. You can also see the event and effect columns are turned off altogether out of this view. So we've been able to tidy that up. Okay, so now with a column, say like last modified here, or even this is clipped, now what we can do is we can actually go down and change the setup on those more locally. Actually, we'll do last modified, we'll do that back up top here. So last modified, we'll say showing details false and showing grid false, so we'll get rid of that one. And then what was the one we just looked at? So is clipped, so we'll also turn that off. So is clipped, something that we would typically do here is we might actually change it from having a name being is clipped, we might even change it to a shortened name, or we may even switch it over and use like an icon to represent that column so it's much smaller in width, similar to the masked or the confirmed again. So we might actually assign an icon to that, which would reduce the size of that. So I'll just get rid of the masked field, and then what we'll do is we'll move on. So you can see that there's an icon applied to that, which you can do with other fields as well. So showing grid false. So we'll get rid of that. And now, as I was saying, so you can also set values on the local instance of that reporting point down here. So you can see that at plan A, our downtime reporting point. Now what we saw before was we have our column of data, which is the effective percent. We could actually put like a summary type in here, whether it's a mean or a sum or something like that. So if we really wanted, we could say for all the slow running event loss that we have, what's the average effective loss that we have across those events. So we could put that in there and have some sort of mean. So I'll do that just to show you, even though it might not be particularly useful or meaningful in this instance. So where are we? We're back up here. Percent downtime, and so we have a summary type here, and what we can do is we can say we're just going to have it calculating a mean for all of the rows that are visible. Again, we can save that, start the hierarchy. Okay, so now we've gotten rid of the masked column altogether, and you can see here now we have a summary type appearing there of 56%. Again, so that's where we have the ability to have summary types at the bottoms of our columns here. So if we had, say, a column here for lost tonnage going through, we could then have a sum total of that lost tonnage, which I'll do in another video. So that's all I had for this video in terms of cleaning up the grid and cleaning up the details entry form, removing fields that are not necessary. Thanks for watching.